The following program contains graphic displays of courage. If you suffer from weak knees, this show might not be right for you. Check with your orthopedic specialist.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. The only TV host arrested more times than Mahatma Gandhi, Randall Terry.
Howdy, ladies and gentlemen. There's about to be a shootout at the GOP corral. On one side, you got evil gunslingers like Karl Rove, who are fixing on taking control of the Republican Party away from men and women like you. On the other side, you got men like me, who are out to serve God and you in the fear of God, according to Christian principles. Other good men standing strong and tall with us. You're gonna have to choose. Whose side are you on? But first, I have a quick word from my good friend, Rusty Cowpoke. Hey, Rusty, go ahead, borrow my hat.
These leaders of them 501c3 groups, heck, they're strutting around like they've been riding some Bremerville for 8 seconds. Whoa. Heck, they ain't even mutton busting. You can Google that too. Mutton busting.
Welcome to the show, friend. It is I, your servant, Randall. Karl Rove. I don't want to call him public enemy number one, but man, he's close. Karl Rove is launching what he calls the Conservative Victory Project and vows to raise hundreds of millions of dollars to help elect candidates. The problem is they're not real conservative candidates. In fact, some of his right-hand men and big donors are openly mocking people who are truly pro-life. Now, what you have to understand, and this is going to be painful for some of you to hear, but Barack Obama and Harry Reid and Speaker of the House John Boehner, a Republican, and Karl Rove, a Republican, they all play by the same rules. It's about appearances. It's about seducing and deceiving voters and donors for the obtaining and the retention of power. Now, the reason I said it's painful for some people is because they think that the GOP stands for God's own party. It doesn't. It stands for Grand Ole Party. Grumpy old men on Prozac. Sorry, At the March for Life this past year, just a couple weeks ago, the March for Life, the folks who run it, had either the stupidity or the lack of wisdom or the deceit to allow John Boehner to have a featured video played from the platform praising the pro-life movement and saying some inane drivel about him being pro-life and we're winning and blah, blah, blah. How could they be so foolish? Because John Boehner single-handedly refunded Planned Parenthood, the nation's largest murderer of unborn babies. When John Boehner had the chance to tell Obama and Biden, we will not give any more money to Planned Parenthood, because remember, all spending bills, all money that gets spent by the government originate in the House of Representatives. Okay, did you know that? The House of Representatives controls the purse strings. So when the big budget fight happened after the 2010 election, it was Boehner, the newly elected Speaker of the House, who caved in a private meeting with Obama and Biden and agreed to give hundreds of millions of dollars to one of the most nefarious organizations to curse the face of the earth in all of human history, okay? John Boehner has blood on his hands. But following the advice of Machiavelli, which we read yesterday, and by the way, we're going to read more of him today, John Boehner had the shameless, brazen chutzpah to come by way of video to the March for Life and say that he's pro-life and that he wants to defend human life. He's a liar. He's a deceiver. And March for Life should be ashamed of allowing his video to be put on the platform. What's it all about, Alfie? Money, getting invited to the party, having a photo op, being able to raise money. In other words, John Boehner had to take the time to make this video. It's very prestigious for the March for Life to have that video of him. Hey, why didn't he come to the platform in person? Was he too busy? He'd have been booed off. We had people on the ground that would have booed him off with bullhorns because he's treacherous. But Boehner and Karl Rove, the political consultant par excellence, making millions and millions of dollars deceiving people, these people are committed to pretending to be what we wish they would be. Now, yesterday at the end of the show, I was a little bit rushed, or in our previous show rather, I was a little bit rushed giving you some tools to help you protect yourself from being deceived. I want to talk about those again today. I am going to read more of The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli today, and you're going to see how so many of our politicians, whether they be candidates or already elected officials, are deceiving us and using the things that we cherish most to cause us, to deceive us into helping them get into power, at which point they'll do whatever the heck they please. Don't go away, this is an important program. It's here to equip you for that shootout at the GOP corral. I'll be right back.
Custer was always hard of hearing for advice, and he became a real mule when he became a general. Randall tried to warn him not to underestimate Chief Sitting Bull, but he wouldn't hear of it. And that is not the last nor the first time that someone would ignore Randall Terry's advice and live to regret it, and he didn't.
Friend, you need to get this book, We Won't Get Fooled Again. Listen to this. I came to the conclusion that most folks were left over from the Reagan era who were no longer warriors, but are now either too old or unhealthy, and had compromised and become comfortable with the Republican establishment. They turned these organizations pretty much into direct mail fundraising fronts and were making tons of money and living the good life in beautiful mansions. The conservative movement had transformed itself from a very dynamic, principled organization in the Reagan years to a bunch of compromising, useless, and ineffective money-making machines. I'm reading to you from the new blockbuster book, We Won't Get Fooled Again, that names names, shows organizations, shows how they say that they're Christian, but they betray Christ, they betray biblical principles in the public square, and we are funding them. Go to the website, call us on the phone, and order it today. I'll send it to you for free if you want. God bless you.
Dr. Love? Well, of course I'm talking about Randall Terry. He's the only one around here who knows about love. Come on now.
Whoa there. Take it easy, Pilgrim. All right. I know that some of the material that we're covering is actually a little bit discouraging, okay? You know, all you have to do is look over the last 30 or 40 years of our national descent into the jaws of hell, and all the times that we were told that we're winning and this is the candidate or this is the bill or this is the organization that we should give money to. A lot of us are discouraged, and frankly, we should be. But I think it was Churchill who said, courage is being willing to do something over and over again because it's right, even though you failed at it the first time and the time after that. It's a rough paraphrase, but that's what he was saying. In other words, we have to weld ourselves to truth and to justice, and then fight for them. And we have to begin to have far more discernment as to who is actually our friend and who is an enemy in the camp who's masquerading as a friend. Remember this as an axiom. An enemy outside of your camp is far less dangerous than an enemy inside your camp. An enemy outside your camp makes you vigilant, right? You're always looking to see, where is he? Is he coming? Who's he bringing? What's he going to do? How is he going to attack? But an enemy inside your camp can poison your food in the day, and he can cut your throat at night. Karl Rove, the establishment consultants that have gotten us to this place inside of the Republican Party, they are the enemy in the camp. We're going to have to identify them, fight against them, do everything in our power to ignore them, expel them, marginalize them, and cause their candidates to be defeated. Okay? Because at the end of the day, they care about power, not about justice. They're statists. They're socialists. They're baby killers. They don't care about maintaining the covenant and sacrament of marriage between a man and a woman. They don't care if U.S. interests at home or abroad, or U.S. workers at home are being run over roughshod by huge multinational corporate deals that send our jobs to sweat plants or slave labor shops in China. Okay? They care about power and about money. We have to identify them and then fight against them for all we're worth. I want to read to you again from the famous book, The Prince, by Niccolo Machiavelli, the Florentine who wrote this, if my memory is correct, over 400 years ago. It is a brilliant treatise. If you've never read it, you've got to read it. It's brilliant in its wickedness, okay? It's a demonic genius. Give the devil his due. That ain't in the Bible, but it's a good phrase. And you might as well say give Karl Rove his due, okay? He is a brilliant deceiver. A brilliant deceiver. All right, let's read from The Prince. And you have to understand this, that a prince, and by the way, we need to just read politician, somebody in power, that a prince, especially a new one, cannot observe all those things for which men are esteemed, being often forced in order to maintain the state, to stay in power, to act contrary to faith, friendship, humanity, and religion. Therefore, it is necessary for him to have a mind ready to turn itself accordingly, as the winds and variations of fortune force it. In other words, if you want to get in power and you want to keep power, you've got to be ready at any point to break faith, to lose your humanity, to turn your back on religion, as the winds may force you to do. This is evil, okay? It's almost pure distilled evil, 100 proof. And it makes men drunk in their minds. Listen to this one. For this reason, a prince ought to take care that he never lets anything slip from his lips that is not replete with the above named 5 qualities, that he may appear to him who sees and hears him altogether merciful, faithful, humane, upright, and religious. There is nothing more necessary to appear to have than this last quality, to be religious. Inasmuch as men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. When we come back from this break, I'm going to explain to you what he meant by those last things. But think John Boehner. Think Boehner being at the March for Life, appearing religious. All those bishops, all those priests, all of those pastors and people praying. And there's John Boehner, the man who lifts his hands as they drip with the blood of the innocent. Nothing slips from his lips that is not full of humanity and faith and religion. Lies from the pit of hell. I'll be right back.
Moments with Moses. I will lay your cities waste and will make your sanctuaries desolate, and I will not smell your pleasing odors.
Friend, you need to get this book. We won't get fooled again. Listen to this. I came to the conclusion that most folks were left over from the Reagan era who were no longer warriors, but are now either too old or unhealthy and had compromised and become comfortable with the Republican establishment. They turned these organizations pretty much into direct mail fundraising fronts and were making tons of money and living the good life in beautiful mansions. The conservative movement had transformed itself from a very dynamic, principled organization in the Reagan years to a bunch of compromising, useless, and ineffective money-making machines. I'm reading to you from the new blockbuster book, We Won't Get Fooled Again, that names names, shows organizations, shows how they say that they're Christian, but they betray Christ, they betray biblical principles in the public square, and we are funding them. Go to the website, call us on the phone, and order it today. I'll send it to you for free if you want. God bless you. What is the use of living if it be not to strive for noble causes and to make this muddled world a better place to live after we are gone? Sir Winston Churchill. Welcome back to the program, friend. We've been discussing Karl Rove and the establishment consultants that are helping to destroy America by means of capturing the Republican Party. Actually, they've already captured it. The challenge before us now is to get it out of their hands. I'm going to talk about what we just read from the book The Prince by Machiavelli, but I want to first read to you the words of Jesus from the Gospel of Luke. The Lord said, "For a good tree bringeth not forth corrupt fruit, neither doth a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. For every tree is known by its fruit. Every tree is known by his own fruit. For of thorns men do not gather figs, nor of a bramble bush do they gather grapes." Test the fruit. Taste it. Don't listen to the words. If you've got a tree salesman saying, yes, that's going to give you grapes, and you're thinking, you know what, this doesn't look like a grapevine to me, or maybe it does look like a grapevine, but maybe it's dead. Maybe the roots are gone. You've got to taste the fruit. So we saw in our last segment when Machiavelli said, above all things, the prince, the politician, must appear religious. Above all things. That's what he has to appear. Because people are often willing and ready to be deceived. And he said, most people judge by the eye and not the hand. And he went on to explain in that passage what he meant was this. Most people never get close enough to a politician or to a prince in those days to actually see how wicked they are. So as long as the prince in his public announcements says the words that sound religious and humane and devout and caring, he'll be able to seduce people because most people don't get close enough to touch him, to see him behind closed doors. Now, in our current political world, while we might not get close enough to ever see a candidate or an incumbent behind closed doors, we can taste the fruit of their policies. We can ask the tough questions. We can ask, or we can look at their voting record. Will you pledge that you will never sign, or rather vote for a budget that includes 1 penny for the baby killers at Planned Parenthood? It's a simple yes-no question. Now, if they've been in office a while, you can look back over how many times they voted for budgets that gave money to child killers. You can ask them, will you vote, yes or no, to revoke the most favored trade status with China? All right? Yes or no? China has recently passed us as the world's #1 economy, and that feat was engineered by Democrats and Republicans alike as we imploded our own manufacturing base and sent jobs of the textile world, of the electronic world, into the slave labor factories of China. So you can ask somebody who's running for office or somebody who's an incumbent, would you seek a vote, bring back a vote to revoke China's most favored nation status and to begin to put some duties and some tariffs on the goods? Would you vote yes or no to say marriage or civil unions, which are marriage by another name, must only be between a man and a woman? Yes or no? On the economic side, Tea Party viewers, are you a socialist? Oh, I'm not a socialist. Are you sure? Will you publicly say that we have to phase out Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the generational redistribution of wealth? Are you prepared to say we have to end food stamps and let churches and families and communities care for their poor? In other words, number one, are you a socialist? And once you figure out what that really means, you say, no, I want no more redistribution of wealth. Then you can go to the Karl Rove politicians and ask them, are you prepared to bring an end to the welfare state? Yes or no? And begin to grill them on the details. So, I've got to take a break. I'm almost out of time. I'm going to give you a few more items that you can use as a litmus test when we come back. Don't go away. For behold, God is my helper, and the Lord is the protector of my soul. Turn back the evils upon my enemies, and cut them off in thy truth. Friend, you need to get this book. We won't get fooled again. Listen to this. I came to the conclusion that most folks were left over from the Reagan era who were no longer warriors, but are now either too old or unhealthy and had compromised and become comfortable with the Republican establishment. They turned these organizations pretty much into direct mail fundraising fronts and were making tons of money and living the good life in beautiful mansions. The conservative movement had transformed itself from a very dynamic, principled organization in the Reagan years to a bunch of compromising, useless, and ineffective money-making machines. I'm reading to you from the new blockbuster book, We Won't Get Fooled Again, that names names, shows organizations, shows how they say that they're Christian, but they betray Christ, they betray biblical principles in the public square, and we are funding them. Go to the website, call us on the phone, and order it today. I'll send it to you for free if you want. God bless you. I'd like to begin this last segment with a prayer. May Karl Rove's agenda rot in hell, and may his hand-picked candidates, one by one, lose power if they are evil and treacherous. Amen. I mean, even a broken clock is right twice a day. Maybe Karl Rove would get behind one good candidate. So if there's a good man that Karl Rove is helping, I hope he wins. I can't picture it, but anyway. All right. This is the time, friends, when we have to draw from the resources that are inside of us, deep in our soul, aided by the Spirit of God, the seeds of truth, the love of God that we have inside of us. And we need to let them come to the surface and be wise, wise as serpents, harmless as doves. Stop giving to any PAC. Don't give any money to any PAC. Number two, don't give any money to the Republican Party. Don't. The Republican Party is treacherous right now. Your money could be squandered in ways you don't even want to think about. Find a candidate or two or three at the state, local, or federal level that you can trust because you've tested the fruit. Give to them directly, all right? Don't give any money to 501c3 groups, tax-exempt groups, who say that they're going to change some political issue or fight some fight for you. It's a scam. They can't legally, and they won't. And then, here's my last challenge to you. Consider running for office. You. Why not? If you're ethical, if you'll rule and serve in the fear of God, you could be a hero in time and eternity and fight for justice.